Hi guys, welcome back to my Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Today is another fantastic day for an interview, and I've got Tricia Parido with me. Tricia is a fellow traveler, shall we say. We have both taken the liberty of tasting many addictions out there, taste a bit there, and we are experts in... She is actually truly an expert, master addiction specialist. Yes, and I'm a pretty expert in addictions, okay? I'm a master addiction man. Master addiction master, okay? So today we are quite uniquely positioned because we have been there where maybe you are right now. And we want to talk today. We've decided that we want to talk about those situations where you're still a bit in denial, and that's so common out there. So 95% of alcoholics will say, "Me, alcoholic? No, there's no way. John down there, you should see him drinking. Oh, but me, no, I'm fine. It's just I'm a bit stressed. Therefore, I want to drink a little bit more." Yeah, that cheesecake. Yeah, I'm sorry, that hasn't got much of a chance because I'm really, and that's what you mean 8 hours of Netflix when I'm trying to sober up. Yeah, okay. So there are so many things that we normalize. Yet, why don't we actually talk about how a recovery journey really is happening, and maybe how we can look at it differently? How can we experience recovery in a different way? And look at it in a different way. And maybe instead of it becoming such a overwhelming thing and such a scary thing, as it was for me probably, it is our choice. So, Trisha, I'm so happy that I've got you on board here today. Let's talk addiction. Welcome to my show.
Oh, thank you so much. And I've been just really excited to be here. Like, it is just so awesome to connect with people that are willing to speak out loud because, society as a whole has a fairly narrow perspective around, let's just say, the word addiction or the word recovery. Both of those words, like there's a very specific cognitive space that people go to when they hear them. And it generally is, addiction and, means that people are, not functioning. Recovery is for people that are down, out, ill, poorly functioning, and need to be removed from their environment and fixed or, made different. And it's just not the whole truth. It's not the whole perspective. And it's something that I learned in my journey. Now, mind you, I worked really hard at my addictions for 30 years, but I also worked really hard on my recovery journey for 25 and more so. And the thing is addiction isn't just about chemical substances that, we think are the problem. We become attached and it ruins our life. And recovery isn't just about, removing those things. It's about life repair, emotional repair, spiritual repair. I mean, there are just so many different layers to it. And what I realized is that my addictions, my negative attachments, my habits that were holding me hostage were all seated in a pressure to perform. And we're all a reliance on things outside of myself, like that reliance for these things to bring me peace, joy, comfort, relief, value, validity, worthiness, like all the things. And so once I realized that I could create a life where I felt whole, meant that, I had to realize that this is my life too, and it gets to look, feel, be however I want it to. I just had to make some choices. And it wasn't just put down the beer. It wasn't, it wasn't just start eating or stop eating or change what I was eating. It wasn't, give up buying shoes. It wasn't those things. It was about looking at, the stories that I was telling myself in my head and attaching to the other people in my life and so many different things. Anyway, I could ramble on for hours upon hours to keep it focused. If I was to say anything right here, right now, in this moment, anybody that is listening, let go of your narrow perspective around the words addiction and recovery. Let's get broad.
That's right. And I could not agree more with you. Having said that, when you're living a life where you constantly try to escape your reality and you want to implement change, you need to start with something. And I guess to a certain degree, it makes sense that at the very start, you need to think about the things that you use to escape reality. And they are often rather potentially lethal. Some of us do a suicide in installments with alcohol. Others, they go closer to the knife's edge with fentanyl or with other drugs that they inject. There are different paths that people choose, and I think it is sometimes there needs to be this intervention. There needs to be this someone giving you the helping hand, removing you from your environment, and strictly going into 4 weeks of rehab where you are protected, where you can lick your wounds, where you can heal, where you can withdraw, all those kind of things. So you're so right that to say, we need to think wider. For some of us, that's where the story starts, with 4 weeks of time out. The vast majority of people out there are nowhere close to that. For me, I probably wasn't so, I was down and out. I was still relatively high functioning alcoholic. And for me, the 4 weeks of all expenses paid holiday was exactly what I needed, because it allowed me the jumpstart to get onto the healing journey. Having said that, had you told me, hey, look, you will go now 4 weeks into rehab and it's going to be just fine and we'll teach you your emotions, etc., I would have looked at you and said, no way. No way. I don't need that. And I'm a doctor. I know everything about emotions. My ass. My ass. I knew everything about emotions in other people. I could read a depression from a mile over there, and a personality disorder, and addiction. I saw it from a mile coming. Did I see it in me? Hell no. Hell no. So it is what, I mean, you're right. Let's change the perceptions. But in most people that are addicts, they are in complete denial. So how can we change the perception, first of all, of the people who are living lifestyles that completely rely on escapism?
I think you said so many things in there that I just want to jump on and
go
and just touch on. So I want to first, before I go into the space for those people that are in denial and or maybe aren't at the level of severity you were referring to, because yes, there are people that are at a level of severity that they do need to be removed from their environment so that they can have that space, that period. Now, again, if we go back to society thinks, okay, send them to treatment. They'll go spend 30 to 60 days, depending upon their level of severity, and they'll come back good.
No.
Right? So let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. Early recovery, the first 30, 60, 90 days are literally, yes, important for that level of severity, very much a needed step. However, it is stabilization. You still will need, and this is where my passion drew me directly into this industry, working and doing exactly what I do, because we do that, we stabilize, and then we release, we discharge to AA, NA, and weekly therapy. But nobody's there to work with you. You need to be prepared that you have to, the now what? What's next?
Exactly.
Because you go home to the same house, the same spouse, the same kids, the same bills, the same job, the same environment, the people, places, things that you were previously avoiding, numbing out, not knowing how to deal with. And what I liken this to is what you were referring to, those folks that are, in denial, but, are in this space. What's happening is with our negative attachments, with our habits that are forming and growing into addictions, if they aren't already, this is attaching an emotional purpose to something outside of ourselves. Again, what I said, I'm relying on that something outside of me to bring me peace, joy, comfort, and relief. So let's talk about this in a way that somebody may be able to translate. So moms, all you moms out there, and men, think about your daily attachment to whatever exercise program it is that you gotta have, or you're gonna be irritated, agitated, and annoyed. So I liken this to my moms that have to go to that 6 a.m. spin class. And if they don't, if say their child is ill for whatever reason, they can't go. And now their whole life, their whole day is dismantled. Everything is off kilter. They don't know what to do because they're so rigid in all of these things that they have to do to define them as a person, a being, or how good they feel about themselves or don't. And so we just become so rigidly attached that things falter if it doesn't go right. So we have this emotional attachment to things outside of us to feel right. And so that's the alcohol for some, that's the fentanyl for some, that's heroin, that's, pain pills, that's the bucket of Ben and Jerry's, or, the brownies you hide in the car on your way home from the grocery store. It's literally, yes, it's a real thing. Do.
Were you ticking things off in your past there?
Yes. Like if I eat it in a car and nobody sees me, nobody will know. Right?
And that's us, isn't it? I mean, that's us. I mean, if you ask yourself, am I an addict? Am I in trouble? Well, I can ask you back to find out, well, how busy are you in your life? And with busy, I mean something different. I was very, very busy as an alcoholic, because in the morning I was hiding that I was hungover. Then over the day I sort of functioned, and then later in the afternoon I was thinking, where do I get the alcohol? Then I was hiding that I got the alcohol, so I traveled different supermarkets. Then I was hiding the alcohol. Then I was hiding that I was drinking the alcohol. Then I was hiding that I was drunk. I was busy, I tell you. Does that sound a bit familiar, that hiding? If that hiding sounds familiar to you guys, come on!
Yeah, it is. It is a job.
Isn't it?
Like I said, I worked really hard for 30 years.
Exactly.
To be this highly functioning alcoholic.
Yeah.
And it's a very busy job.
Isn't it? So
there's time to get one in where am I going to be somewhere long enough to have one so that I'm not drinking and driving? All the things.
Isn't it? Exactly.
All the things.
So,
right?
And that was the alcohol. So, but, and for many of you, it might not be alcohol. You might actually say, no, I'm fine. I'm just a little bit overweight, weighing in 450 pounds or something like that. It's all muscle, and I've got a genetic problem, obviously. And no. Chances are that you've fallen foul to sugar and to the modern industry, which creates that perfect bliss point between salt, chemicals, and sugar that your body just wants. Yes. And it's that dopamine, and it's sex falls to the wayside because that sugar rush is so much nicer. Now, if that means something to you, welcome to the club. And that is how social what is the word? Programming, social. That's where the food industry has really got you on that big hook. And
The food industry hides the sugar. We don't even know
correct.
the things. I mean, I do because I've studied it, I've researched it as a recovery, fitness, and nutrition, coach, and somebody that is very passionate about eating disorders and food addiction. I know where it's hidden, but it's literally in everything. You can't even get a McDonald's hamburger without getting a mouthful of sugar, refined sugars at that, because the food industry here, especially in the US, I mean, all of these packaged, processed, whatever, pre-made things all have these preservatives in it, and they've done it with an intention. I guess I don't want to be accusational, but there are so many of them that are addictive properties. Right? So Doritos, they were literally made so that you could not eat just one.
Exactly. And think of
there
it.
There are literally ingredients that create that issue.
Call it what it is. Let's call it an addiction. It is highly, highly addictive, the food that you buy. And a statistic, the figures might not be exactly right, but the ballpark figures are. It is in the last 10 years, supermarkets have added another 15,000 products onto their shelves. Now, last time I looked, they were no new apples and no new oranges. Maybe kiwi fruit is something new. Greetings from New Zealand, but that's one. Now, the other 15,000 is basically highly manufactured, perfectly balanced crap that people make a lot of money with. And if you actually define food as something that is sustaining your life and is enriching you, then this shouldn't actually be called food, okay? So these are the things, and we want to spell that out. I think that is, I'm very passionate, like you, Tricia, about these hidden things, because we don't see them. We take them for granted, and we feel the bliss of eating that half a cheesecake, and you don't realize that actually, hello, bing, 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 bing. What you have just traded from alcohol to cheesecake, or from alcohol to smoking, or from smoking to you name it. It's essentially there is so much more out there. There's so much more to addiction out there. So our perception that I'm fine, maybe you're not fine. The perception of addiction being down and out. I love that, what you said earlier on. Were you truly down and out through your 30 years? As in the gutter? Some of us have. Some of my guests have. The vast majority haven't. What about you, Tricia?
Yeah, I'd have to say no. I mean, sure, I had some dark phases. My story again is really long, but my first sexual assault was at the age of 4, and there were many. There was a lot of senseless death. There was a lot of things, right? So I picked up at the first time at 12, after my dad had been killed in a tragic accident, and I was looking at the adults, and they were able to have conversation. They were able to smile. They were able to, function, and I'm 12, and I'm like, so the common thread as I'm looking at all the adults around is a beer in the hand and a cigarette. And so, I grabbed a 6-pack and a pack of cigarettes and took off and it worked. And so there you go. But, so I wasn't really, I did struggle off and on again with, scary trauma-filled periods of my life where I relied on the alcohol so much more as an escape. Domestic violence, Again, sexual assaults and, just abuse and a lot of loss. And so those periods were, darker. However, I have to say that for the majority of it, no, I was highly functioning. I met my husband at 27. I just turned 27 years old. We have 5 children. We raised them beautifully. We had some trials. One of our children had, AML, which is a leukemia. And, that was a struggle. That was a battle. Everything worked out fine. We were blessed. But, so really for me, it was, just a lot of things. But then I had a few near-death experiences. And later in life, when it came time to start empty nesting, I developed generalized anxiety disorder with panic. And I, really attribute it to having had a really early hysterectomy and just a lot of hormonal imbalance and daily drinking. Let's call it what it is, daily drinking and an eating disorder. Because, I did still drink every day, never seemingly drunk. And then I got this anxiety, and my medical provider, who knew I was very open about it. I'd never hid it. Talked to my kids openly about it, the whole 9 yards. But anyway, I was prescribed Xanax, and I didn't abuse that either, but I did use it daily along with my daily drinking. And sure, I was an adult, but didn't really realize what was happening behind the scenes inside my physical body.
Yeah.
So with daily drinking and, disordered eating habits, and now Xanax on board, over a 5-year period of time, what happened was I developed a physiological addiction that I had never experienced. So now I could not quit. Now I was in a space where every morning it was my hands are shaking and I was nauseated, etc. So, to function, I needed a beer and a Xanax, right? Before the coffee, before any, just to be able to function and going to sleep at night. I could feel my liver working. Just all the things. And so then it became really a big job. Right. And I remember, my family, my husband asked me why now, when I was like, I need help, because I had always been able to get things under control my whole life. Whenever it would get away from me, because I'm a control freak. Again, at 4, I was a control freak. I was reading, writing, doing arithmetic, playing chess by the age of 4, and was competitively swimming and playing piano, classical piano, by 6.5. I just always had this need to control my environment, which is classic addict behavior. So I think I
trauma survivor behavior. That is what it is. Yeah.
True. Yes, you're right. It is. And I, always felt like I was super strong. Like, yep, that happened. I survived it. Great. Let's move on. And sure, that served me, but I did still have to deal with it.
Oh, right? Fuck. You are moving your lips and my words are coming out. I mean, that's scary. It isn't it? It's absolutely that. One question I need to ask: why did you stay with beer? Everyone smells beer.
No, I didn't stay with beer. That's where I ended.
Oh,
that's where I ended. Yeah. I started with beer, but quickly graduated because, my more TMI probably, but, between junior high and high school was when I had my first true rape. And then he stalked me for a year. Anyway, so I ended up in this space where, I hung out with, I engaged in a party crowd, and it wasn't, we were all very, I don't want to say well off, but, we had good lives. And so we also had access to some really good liquor. And so I remember, I think the first time I played quarters, we played with screwdrivers, and so by the time I was 21, my body wouldn't metabolize hard alcohol anymore. I just was done. Just done. So then I, decreased, to wine and beer, and then wine had to be removed. And so by the time I was done drinking, like the only thing I could tolerate and to be able to drink enough, because it was like, I had to have that hand to mouth going all the time, because that's another addiction, right? And, the only thing I could handle really was Coors Light.
Interesting.
So, my liver was, maintaining itself, right? Like, if I would have stuck with the hard stuff, I don't know what would have happened. So, but if I would have touched it, it would have just been like blackout. So, and I didn't like to black out. I didn't like to not remember. I liked to just maintain myself, like space.
Interesting. See,
Yeah.
that was never enough for me. I wanted to forget. I wanted to come to that point where I don't give a toss anymore about whatever trauma had just occurred, or old trauma that I was constantly reliving. And I just wanted to forget that. And I needed that level higher. This was not just a calm, humming, beer kind of level where you could sort of be there. No, I needed that. Okay,
I hear you. That was me, 12 to 25, 26.
Yeah.
26 to 43.
Yeah.
Like, I was with my husband. I had a great life. I learned what unconditional positive regard was. There wasn't any more trauma.
Nice. Okay.
Right? Like, I had 5 amazing children. And actually, by the time I quit, it was like, I'm not going out like my grandma did, right? Because I'm a grandma now. I'm not going out like that. And so for me, it was my way to hold on to, my relationship with alcohol, but enjoy the life that I had the opportunity to again. So I'm talking to all of you housewives out there who, as soon as the kids go to school and everybody's off to work or whatever, and you're just feeling like, I've got this airline bottles of wine in my gym bag in the back of the closet so I can drink while I'm vacuuming. I hear you. It may not be causing you, it may not be trauma induced. It may not be, something very traumatic. However, it's still going to bite you in the rear end one day. And it's not, you want to find out, what is that emotional attachment? What is that you're waiting for that midday wine to bring to you that you aren't giving to yourself?
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Absolutely. And but it is that. I mean, one guest described a sound effect for him that wine had. And the sound effect was easy. That was the feeling. That was it. And actually, I get goosebumps because I had exactly the same. Give me 2 glasses of wine after a very long working day, and suddenly these muscles were relaxing. And that was beautiful. The problem was I had completely forgotten about other ways how to relax these muscles. Nowadays, I live a life that is so different. That is beautiful. That's full of joy. That's full of crispness, clarity, but more joy in my soul, and a passion that is driving me nowadays. Beautiful. But I still need to go, But nowadays, at least I have found multiple other ways to suit various needs and various times. But that is the richness of recovery. That is when Trisha is talking about she has worked on her recovery for the last 20 years. Well, that's exactly what we do. Because initially, we are wounded animals. When you stop drinking, that is your starting point of you changing your life, then yeah, you deal with your addiction or what is currently really hurting you. And you need to start with something. So well done for starting with something. But then comes this beautiful journey, not of daily, I can't drink. And I don't have that thought anymore. I can't drink. That thought is long gone. My daily thoughts are, what do I do today? What do I want to do today to fit in my duties, my work, etc., but something that puts a smile on my face? Will that be a bit of gratitude? Will that be a bit of journaling? Will that be going for a long swim? Will that be whatever it is? That is how we work on our new life. I think, Trisha, that the new life, I think that is maybe a way that one should really talk about recovery, about a new and exciting life, as if you're emigrating, as if you're moving away from where you were, and you have got now a new start. And how beautiful is that?
Absolutely. I always ask my clients, I ask myself, actually, I should say, I start with myself every day. Like, how do you want to see yourself experiencing living today?
Yeah.
How are you going to lead by that example? How do you want to be received by others?
Yeah.
How do you want to be received by your environment? Right? And how are you going to be inviting everybody to receive you the way that you desire? Anyway, but because I think it's really important that we realize, I mean, we think about it. What we've been referring to here is a lot of people functioning in an external locus of control position. Not to throw theories in there, et cetera, but, Julian Roderick really had something going on. And when I learned this theory, like, it was life-changing and pivotal for me. I was like, holy cow, right? So we have to, again, that's all those things out there, right? But we want to, be able to sit and say, how can I sit in and move through this? Because we were conditioned as children, right? We're all born in the external position. We have to cry to be fed or have our diaper changed or whatever. We rely on somebody else to tie our shoes. And we're modeled this hand to mouth or whatever you want to call it, right? Because what happens? You fall down, you scrape your knee, you get a popsicle. You go to the doctors and get your first vaccines. You get lollipops. you have a birthday. You get cake. You accomplish something big. You get a celebration. Now we got food, dessert, and alcohol, right? Like, we got all of these. This is our reward system, and this is how we're moving through life. And what I've realized is, and I'll bring it back to my own family, my own upbringing. My mom didn't know, because her mom didn't know, that we were all supposed to be moving into an internally driven position where we didn't rely on things outside of us, right? To where we could sit in and move through the uncomfortable, because we had the ability to have impulse control. We could be responsive in all things we did instead of knee-jerk reactive. We had we would have known that we needed to learn things like distress tolerance, effective self-soothing tactics, and emotion regulation.
You're taking the really big words out of the cupboard. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I mean, this is literally, I'm taking pages out of everything that, that I do in my daily life, because I tell people this, like, I literally turn on the work that I do with my clients every day and listen to it myself, one lesson or another, because it is so important that we pay attention, that we are listening effectively to what our physical body is telling us, what our emotional body is telling us, what our spiritual mind is telling us, and what our cognitive mind is telling us. Our body knows what it needs, just like what you were talking about with food, right? Food is our fuel. And the minute that we started making it something else back in childhood, it became something other than what it is. It is literally the fuel that our body needs to function appropriately, just like the car that you drive down the freeway every day. You wouldn't put sugar in the gas tank or latex paint or, I don't know, sand in the brake fluid, all of these things, right? Like you wouldn't put sludge in your car and expect it to run. Now, sure, if you don't treat it well, you can just go out and buy another one. But how would you treat that car if you never were allowed to have more than one? You would treat it better. You'd rotate the tires, you'd all these things, right? This vessel is the only one we are ever going to have. It's guaranteed. Yet we put sludge in it and expect it to continue to perform to the level that we wish that it would. And it's just not going to happen.
And it is so true. It is the way that we treat our bodies is with great disrespect. And I certainly abuse my body tremendously. But I want to assure you guys out there, the past does not equal the future. Just as much as if you've had 10, 20, 30 years of abuse, of even if you don't want to call it addiction, call it heavy use or whatever is acceptable to you for the time being, you have left a mark. As alcoholics, even although I ate well, I was malnutritioned. There's no doubt in my mind. I ran a large pain clinic, and I know for sure that when I run the tests in the blood of my patients, most of them were malnutritioned. There were things missing here and there and everywhere. So that was just the chronic diseases that was causing them the pain. Now, in reality, for me as an alcoholic, that was exactly the same. Did I want to know about it? No. When I changed my life and started really looking after myself, and suddenly my whole body changed. And I'm 56 now, so in the last 2 years, I've put my money where my mouth is and actually ran through a hell of a lot of examinations, just checking me out from the inside, the outside, left and right, everywhere. And I have to say, I expected some nasty surprises. Yet, after 7, 8 years in recovery and actively excellent nutrition, actively ruling out food allergies, getting rid of stuff that does harm me, and try to do the right things, my coronary, so the blood vessels that supply blood to the heart, are actually pristine. They're like a baby's. And with the life I lived, I should by now long have had my third heart attack. No. So I've changed my life around, and you can do too. And whatever is happening right now, well, that's only a snapshot. That's right now. Okay, so what? You've got at least a good starting point. Remember, in order to go forward, you have to sometimes pull the arrow really far back. You might be rather back at the moment, but you're ready to go. So let's be just clear about that. So the past does not equal the future. Let me spell that out. And it's beautiful. 2 nights ago, what is today, Wednesday? Monday night, I swam for the first time in my life. I swam 3 kilometers. One session, and it was seriously kicking ass. And I was trying to see 2Ks I could do, and I was thinking, well, okay, can I push myself? And I could. And I thought, I'm 56. Hang on. I couldn't do that when I was 21. So, so here you go. It is amazing. And that is what I guess what we're saying. I've got goosebumps again because it is so beautiful. It is just a realization that recovery is so rich, is so, it is, honestly, I'm lacking the words to describe the passion that I've got for the new life.
I love your enthusiasm because I can validate that, right? Almost 9 years, alcohol or recovered from chemical substance or, from those addictions, right? Because again, other things have been recovered for 25 years. Like anorexia. And that left me, good 25 years ago. But what I can say is today, when I first got sober, we'll call it that. When I first got sober, because again, my recovery journey was long, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and then Sjogren, and then, mixed connective tissue disease, and all of these things But today, I am not on prescription medication. I take supplements. I am in the best health that I've been in a long time. I no longer need blood pressure medication. I don't need cholesterol medication. All the things, right, that were part of my life now. And I love it because we're both sitting here in our 50s going, look, it's never too late to change things. And it's just not. It's just never too late. I talk with women and men that are like, this is just the way I am, that are in their 50s and 60s. And I'm like, look, man, it doesn't have to be the way you are. Like you can with the right nutrition, with the right sleep, with the right exercise, where you're making it lifelong, manageable, maintainable. I do not and am not an advocate for this diet culture that has seemingly, just taken over so many people's lives, right? Like it's this constant all or nothing, like we're all in or we're all out. And it's just another addictive behavior. Again, addictions are process, behavioral, and chemical in nature. And so, I just love that. Like we can become healthier. I don't have weight fluctuations. I all the things. I can't even tell you, even in this pandemic, I can't even remember the last time I was sick.
That's true, isn't it? That's actually true. Now that you say it, same here. Around me, people are falling over, and I just keep going like the bloody Energizer Bunny. So, no, okay. I actually just realized that, yes. So beautiful. But that takes work too. So I guess the same business. No, actually, that's wrong. I was really focused on all the wrong things, and I was suffering at the time. Nowadays, I'm having fun, and I'm still busy, but busy looking at how can I live even better? How can I actually really look even more after myself? And I guess what? It is actually, I didn't need to climb a mountain where someone was sitting in a yoga position and was whispering words to me. I actually just needed to really think, who do I want to be? And then start really not just having a vague dream who I want to be, actually being very, very, very specific, very clear what I want to do, and then think, how do I get there? And that was the amazing thing. Once I started making tiny, but consistent daily steps, that's where the magic starts. And guess what? You can have a choice every second. Every second. Right now, you choose to listen to us. And for that, I congratulate you. That is, later on, you have the choice to stop that and say, wow, this is an absolute fantastic interview. I need to press the subscribe button. That is your choice, but I strongly recommend it, of course. And then you can have the choice of actually getting up, stretching yourself, and you have the choice to go down and have a drink of water, or a nice big glass of water maybe. These are two choices that you have made, where you went the direction of the new you. How cool is that? How difficult was that? You stretched, and then you actually drank a glass of water. Come on. That's how cool. Two successes. 2 successes in your day. You thought it was a shit day? Congratulations, 2 successes. What's your next choice? What could you do? And it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But hopefully we are infusing you here, and hopefully you're feeling a bit of that feeling that rushes through me at moments like that, when I actually realize how far I have come on my path. But I'm also realizing how far there is still to go, and I'm looking forward to that. So that's cool. Sometimes you need to come to a certain point of realization, and it is. When did you reach that point, Trisha? And what was that point that actually finally told you enough is enough? It is, when did you feel you want to change? Not you need to, but you actually want to change. When did you make the choice?
Okay, so I like that you made that distinction, because I already talked about how I said, I'm not going out this way. And I talked about, when my husband was like, why now? And I said, I can't stop on my own.
Mm.
That wasn't when I wanted to change. That was a need. That was a physical need. I needed stabilization. I needed this to go away. It was when I left my 30-day treatment program and went home and was trying to navigate through that discharge plan of go to AA and weekly therapy. And there wasn't even AA in the city I lived in, one. But it was, when I hit that, now what, right? So I'm like, you know what? You know what's going to serve me is for me to learn what happened. Like what happened? So I went to school. I took a class, the physiological effects of drugs and alcohol on the body, right? Right. So I learned what happened with that combination of drugs that were prescribed to me. Right. And then I was like, okay. So then I started diving in one class at a time, and I became intrigued in myself. Right. This wasn't, I didn't go to school so that I could learn how to do what I do. I didn't go to school so that I could, open a practice and work with other people. I went to school so that I could truly learn what happened in my life. Now, did I know that I was going on a journey that was going to take me all the way back to the age of 4, and I was going to learn about all of these process behavioral and chemical addictions and how trauma is stored in the brain and how my perception and my remembrance of some things, may not be 100% factual, but it was my reality, all the things, right? And how I was attaching, my past. I love how you talk about that. The past does not define your future, but it also doesn't define you. Mm-hmm. And if you can hold on to it, we go through our days and we fill our bag full of every minute that has passed. We get cut off on the way to work. We throw it in our bag. We take it in with us and we stand around the water cooler and talk about the jerk on the freeway, right? Like, why do we put this stuff in our bag? Why do we weigh ourselves down? Why do we keep ourselves so bogged down by things we can't change? There is no do-overs in time. We never get that minute, that second, that month, that week, that whatever back. We cannot do them over. Any day you wake up without a chalk line around your body is a good day. So we're either stuck here in our bag full of cradola, right? Weighing us down. And then what happens is we start future tripping about all of our what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I want that so badly, but how am I ever going to get there? But we're so weighed down. And yes, I'm super demonstrative, right? But now we're stuck between this future trip and anxiety and this weighted down past. And we're desperately trying to go from point A to point Z without doing B through Y. And guess what? It's not an alphabet without B through Y. So we have to so I started getting clearly really interested in myself. And I just started taking class after class after class. And oh my gosh, 5.5 years later, here I am with, I don't know, I think 13 some odd credentials. And here I am. And I just love every minute of it. Right. And it's what keeps me interested. And so every day I wake up and every day it's a new day. And every minute that I need to get up and redirect myself, especially if I'm getting irritated, agitated, and annoyed, right? Like I have taught myself how to do that and not need something else, to rely on. And I think I went down a rabbit hole, but
no, that is perfect. And I love it. I love it that you say that you get annoyed, because there's this perception that somehow we people in recovery, we need to be always happy, always blissful, always serene, always everything is fine because you're in recovery. Obviously, you're fine. My ass. You were saying that the generalized anxiety disorder that you had. I certainly have got waves of anxiety washing over me. I certainly get overwhelmed. There is not a single car journey where I don't use a very flowery vocabulary about the people in front of me. It is just it is me. I cannot cut that out. Whatever I do, that is me. But whilst I absolutely accept it as part of me, I'm perfectly imperfect in this case. What I find interesting is how my brain nowadays responds to something like that. There are times when I can't let go. And I think nowadays, I'm not getting upset about that. I'm upset about this idiot, or that email that someone sent me, or that condition that something happened around me. I'm upset about that, and I keep being upset. Nowadays, I ask myself, why is that? Why are you stuck there? And then I go through the old halt. Am I hungry, angry, lonely, tired? So that's sort of the classic tick box approach that I learned early in my recovery, and that was so good. And often enough, yeah, I've burnt a candle on two ends. I have not looked after my nutrition as well as I should have been, and I'm dry like a crisp. Well, here you go, bingo. So why not accept those negative emotions and whatever is happening there, but ask yourself, well, what is your body actually trying to tell you here? What is actually really going on? So I use the halt as one of the things. Do you use, what is your how do you go about your negative emotions?
I've trained myself early on about those negative emotions, right? Like, just driving on the freeways, anybody that's been to California, and has driven on the highway system around here. Like, I trained myself on the freeway because I didn't like how I would go to that, annoyed space, like, about somebody, tailgating,
Yeah.
or, I just started noticing how truly judgy I was. Right. And so I started redirecting myself. And then I learned about this concept of being in the stance of a judger or being in a stance of a learner, and how the power of inquiry can truly change our lives. So I started, even though, like, on the freeway, or when somebody sends you an email, whatever, like, we don't always have the power to, stop and ask questions. But here's the cool thing is I get to choose how I perceive that person driving on the freeway. So if somebody's tailgating me, old me, German, Irish, Scottish, Sicilian, Taurus, born on the cusp of Gemini, when somebody would ride my tail, my first instinct would be, I'm going to tap the brakes. If you want to be that close to my bumper, why don't we just really check it out, right? Like, that was me. And I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be so much softer. I wanted to be so much more open. I wanted to be so much more interested in human behavior, whatever. So, I started thinking, you know what? This guy behind me is really in a hurry. I hope everything is okay. I'm just going to move over and wish him well, right? 2 seconds, not even a 2-second thing, and it's gone, and I'm not feeling angry, because guess what? For all I know, his kid just got hit by a train and he's trying to get to the hospital. It's none of my business. He doesn't directly have any effect in my life, and never will. Like, it's not like we're going to pull off to the side of the road and become friends or get in a knockdown drag out, so, just learning to be aware of just how judgy I was in my own head about myself and about my environment and other people. So when we get text messages, we choose the inflection and the tone that we apply to every word that we read. So if somebody sends you a text message that says, I can't believe you did that, you get to choose how do you want to read that. Or you have the opportunity to say, can you clue me in on what it is exactly you're talking about, so that I make sure that I internalize this and or reply appropriately. Like, there are so many different layers and textures to the way that we move through life, the way that we experience the stimuli going on around us and our environments, that we have so much opportunity to see so many things differently versus being judgy. Like, I think, sure, being in recovery doesn't mean I'm going to be, positive Pollyanna, all the time. No, because there are things that make me go, oh, that makes no sense. Like, I just don't understand how people could be that bad. And because there are people out there that do bad things, but, are people do that, right? Anyway, so, we go into this whole thing. So I choose to move into this stance of a learner all the time. So my step is, halt. It's a basic, but, I look at my core non-physical feeling with regularity. And what that looks like for me is right here, right now, in this moment, I feel. And that, insert your adjectives. Don't describe yourself as good or fine. Those are ambiguous, right? Get real with yourself. Do I feel irritated, agitated, annoyed, frustrated? Am I elated? Am I inspired? Am I intrigued? What are you? You're not good or fine. Fine. Look up the definitions to the words if you don't know what they are. Get to know how you truly are in any given moment. And then ask yourself, what's driving it? How much of it is about me? How much of it is for me? And how much of it is about something outside me? And what can I do in this moment, in this time and space, to improve it, change it, shift it, morph it, keep the momentum going, whatever it is I need to do, right? Like, acknowledge. Because the only way we're going to condition new ways of being, seeing, or feeling is to condition it to the way that we want. We worked real hard on our drinking. 30 years I conditioned that way of being. Like, I'm going to spend the next 30 years conditioning myself to experience living differently.
I love the way you say that. I recently came across a pie chart, and on that pie chart were all the emotions on there. And it was absolutely mind-blowing how many emotions you can actually describe. Emotions are these feelings, these kind of things that are deep inside. Now, when I was in the midst of my addiction, I had no clue about my emotions to start off with. I was an imbecile. I was retarded, literally, as far as my own emotions were concerned. And it's not for nothing that the worst and most hated session in a recovery program where I was the 10 o'clock emotions session or feelings session. And it was basically, everyone sits around the circle. No hats, no eye covers, no nothing in your hands, no books, no pen, no nothing. You're just sitting there. Needless to say, no electronic devices. And then the session would start. And no one would say anything. And it was very uncomfortable. And suddenly someone said something. And then another person said something. And sometimes it was building up a row. And was sometimes someone was saying, wow, I'm so grateful for, or whatever it was. Suddenly an emotion came out. And suddenly we were feeling things. And we actually experienced emotions of whatever was flowing that moment. And that was the most hated session because we all were so uncomfortable around our emotions. Yet, with hindsight, I must recognize that this was actually one of the most valuable sessions because that was a part of me that I had tried to numb. And therefore, to actually to hear you talking about this learning experience, about looking into your own, whatever happens in you, this is so gold. This is so, but you can't do it necessarily alone. I mean, you went to school, and that is great. You did courses, so to speak, and you probably worked with other mental health professionals. So who helped you? Who were sort of the people who really left a mark on you?
Well, I have to say, one, the treatment program that I went to was truly unique and unfortunately is no longer open, and hasn't been for some time. Like, it was almost like it was dropped there for a little while so that I could be there because it was perfectly fit for me. And then it was gone. But, I have to say that, there are so many pieces of that stabilization period that were really important that you don't, and I've worked in every level of addiction treatment. So you don't get that in our standard treatment. And that maybe that's why they're not open. But anyway, so the clinicians there, the staff there really did. In fact, I mean, I had formulated a relationship with them over a course of a 2-month period before I even went, right? Because like I planned this thing out, man, because getting rid of a 30-year relationship was not something I was just going to willy-nilly go and do, right? So, and it was scary. And anyway, it took me 2 months to get there. But, so I formed a relationship with all of them. But, there were certain things that they taught that also aren't taught. And I'm surprised by this, way all of the people that come to me post-stabilization or whatever that don't know about post-acute withdrawal and have no clue what it is. And they are, dumbfounded to hear that it's going to impact their life for 2 years at minimum. And that, nobody was able to tell them what that emotionally looked like for them. Like, anyway, so, there was that. And then I had, a women's group that I went to, that I engaged with, and it was a bunch of women. We all had different things. I was the only addict that I knew in that time and space. Now, looking back, I can see that we all had some sort of addictive behavior or process in our life. But, some were like, moms with all grown children still, taking advantage of them. Another one was, somebody that had a son with mental illness that was choosing to live on the street. Anyway, another just came out from being on, a psych hold. And, so it was just this women's group that was run by this amazing, therapist who, I think we just all needed each other in that time and space. And we just supported each other. And I think, it was a good year that we got together and we just would go in and vent and talk and just give each other unconditional positive regard and respect and support. And it was just amazing. And then, my family, just truly was interested in the process. And so there's that. And I had a few instructors that really impacted my life as well. It truly gave me that vision, that line of sight, that although what I wanted to create was something truly different and unique, that it was still, that it was going to be something amazing, because it was seated in all of my, my studies, but that it was something, that just has a special gift to give people that are open to receiving. And so, they supported that, even though, their job was to pump out human service professionals, right? Like, and MFTs and LMFTs and, social workers and, counselors, like that's their job, is to, to educate that, but knowing that, I wanted to do it a little bit different. Like they were still there cheering me on. And so it was really great.
Oh, beautiful. But it's beautiful to listen to you, because really, to paraphrase a bit, there were different people in different stages in your life that came in and walked with you for a while. Sometimes you sought them out. Sometimes they just happened to be there by divine intervention or by the cosmos or whatever. But we all need different things at different times in our lives and on our journey of recovery and our journey of healing. And there might be a time that you really need to deal with the trauma that is maybe underlying all of your addictions and your behavior that you don't like. So you might need a specific trauma counselor, and you might need to deal with the PTSD that you are suffering from, that you did not really click onto as much. And there might be sexual violence, where a particular person might be really good for you to explore that, but that particular person is maybe not suited to then deal with your anorexia in your case, etc. So there might be a different coach coming into your life when you're ready to deal with the next challenge. Because either a challenge from your past, challenge from your present, or, needless to say, shit will continue to occur in your life, regardless of your best laid plans. Rest assured. So, who will be your partner then? But I think in all of these cases, there is connection. There is actually you sharing what is on your soul. You're allowing yourself to reveal what's going on, to put it into words, maybe to put it into writing, journaling, or things like that can be very powerful. The moment, it happened so many times to me that I forced myself to write something, and suddenly I thought, what the hell have I just written there? It was like a brain dump straight onto paper, and the moment, it came out of my mouth, and I thought, what did I just say? And suddenly there was this revelation, wow, I didn't even realize that was sort of gnawing on me. And it's those kind of things, you're allowing yourself the time with someone who is listening to you, listening to what you say, and maybe also listening to what you not say. And that is where the skill comes in of the people that you have met, Tricia. And now in time, you have become from the pupil, you have changed to the master, and the service that you provide to others. And it's great there are people like us out there, because you haven't just read the books. You have lived the life. You have got the mental and physical scars to prove it. And therefore, it makes us such different animals, because we have seen both sides of the coin and have lived both lives. And that's so beautiful.
Really want to validate something that you said, because I think it's really important that, and even for those of you that heard it, great. But for those of you who maybe need to hear it a little bit differently, what Stephen is saying here is that it's not always just one person that's going to be your be all end all. And when I say one person, I could be referring to one treatment facility. Again, remember, we've talked about that 30-day treatment facility may be your starting point, but believe you me, it most likely, I won't say that it isn't, because sure, if that's all you need, that's all you need. But here's, and I'll just go to what I do, right? I have an absolute specialty. I am the master at what I'm the master of. Now, with that said, I am not too proud to say, let's bring in this specialist, that specialist. I actually bring them to you or refer you out to them if it's not my specialty, if it's not something that I'm good at, if I feel like it's something that I have completely healed from. Like, I'm not going to bring my baggage to you, right? So, and with that said, you want somebody that's going to be open, honest, and willing to create a collaborative team for you. Because, so I may be able to work with you, in my specialty, creating that, recovery capital, that emotional intelligence that you need to put together and create, your life going forward. But that doesn't mean that when it comes to refeeding after anorexia or, different things, like, I'm not a nutritionist. I am a nutrition coach, but I am not a nutritionist, right? So, if we need to be saying, anyway, you get the idea. Like, you want to make sure that whoever you seek out speaks your language, right? Because if your provider doesn't speak your language, you're just talking. You're just going to talk therapy, and not that talk therapy is bad. I just mean that you're just talking to talk, right? You want somebody who's going to speak your language so that their message resonates with you. You want somebody that's going to introduce you to all the things that you need even when that's outside of that provider. I refer to it as the assertive continuum of care. I love working with therapists that say, hey, I'm working with this person on their trauma, but they do really need to be living today going forward while we're working on this. And so we create this beautiful relationship for these people. They get to heal and live. It's amazing.
And that's a beautiful thing, isn't it? You're so right. And guys, imagine it. I mean, do you really want to have, for example, go to the doctor and this doctor does everything from brain surgery to tummy surgery to psychiatry to foot specialist to you name it. And you think, you can't do all that. And it's logical for you that you have got a family physician who knows broadly and then refers to specialists. Well, it's the same with you, your soul, your precious cargo. And I call it precious cargo. You could say luggage and baggage that you've got. So it is those things that need addressing, whatever they are right now in your life. So put that team together and make sure that you're the dumbest person of that team. So
stop looking for a one-stop shop, because that's just looking for the easy way out, right? Like, this place offers everything, and I'm just going to go there, and I'm going to walk in, and I'm going to come out fully transformed and new. And so, it's not a convenience store. It's not. We're talking about your life. We're talking about, looking at so many different things and really creating something new. And there's just so many pieces that need to happen, and each person is unique. And so don't look at the convenient, easy way. Look at the way that's going that you need. That's all that matters.
Beautiful.
If it takes a week or 10 years to get you wherever that is, it's all that matters. But you can't be looking for the 7-Eleven on the corner.
Oh, exactly. I love it. And rest assured, your goals will change. Whatever is so paramount right now, your focus. Wait 20 minutes. Okay, I give it 6 months, a year. Rest assured, if you were to compare maybe things that you have written a year ago and things that you're writing today, will be so miles apart, because life changes. You have dealt with one trauma and you think everything is all right, and suddenly you've peeled that Band-Aid off and it healed there, and then you peel the next onion layer back and think, oh shit, there's more. And so
more and more. There's always another layer.
And that's okay. That's okay. That's the beautiful life that you have lived. Okay, that is
right.
it's so call it what it is. Don't get overwhelmed. Just say, okay, this is something for another day. But right now, I focus on maybe today. I focus not on the trauma in the past, but I focus on loving myself. And what could that look like?
I think the most important.
Isn't it? Is exactly right. And how could that look like? And that's right for you. And it might be that you have not left the house for a very long time for reasons whatsoever. Maybe you just might wish to walk around the block, if it is safe to do so in your setting and environment at the moment. So, yeah, I'm just saying.
I like to say, live for yourself first, right? Learn to live for yourself first without feeling guilty, selfish, punished, or restricted.
There is so much, and I think, Trisha, we both are so passionate about that. That is, we want to sort of give everything to them here now. Open up and open wide, and I just ram it down your throat. There's so much, and there was so much value in that interview. It is just but I guess don't be overwhelmed with our passion, but maybe get infused a bit yourself and think, are they really two nut jobs there? I mean, they must be on something, clearly. Or is it actually that there's a possibility that their joy is actually real and their passion is real? And does it not feel good? And maybe how could you transform slowly but surely into our lives, into how could you
Your own version?
Yeah. Who is the new? Who do you want to be when you grow up? And not what do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Do you want to be someone like us who is having fun, come on the ride. Come along, come on our path. It's not as I said, it's not a mysterious, hidden brotherhood with secret handshakes. We're actually very easygoing. And guess what? When you start looking around and think how many people around you are trauma sufferers or trauma survivors, are addicts in recovery, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, what you think you're alone. You think all that shame and guilt and all those negative emotions, only you could possibly ever have imagined them or felt them. No, no. Look at the people around you and I show you trauma. Okay? It's as simple as that.
Everywhere.
Trisha, you're an amazing woman, and your passion is infectious. I love that. If people want to connect with you more, how can they do that?
I think it's just to make it super easy, right? Turningleafsrecovery.com. And there you'll find me. There's ways to just contact me, send me a message. I've got chat on my website, so just turningleafsrecovery.com. It's the best way. There's a phone number listed there. It's the only one I have. So
yeah. Beautiful. And guys, look down there into the description of the video and of the podcast. Her details are in there. And it's beautiful. Tricia Parido, an amazing guest. You've honored me with your time, with your effort, but with your joy, with your passion, with your honesty, with your humility, and with the willingness to not give up, but rather the willingness to make every second count in your life. And that's what I subscribe to. That's what you subscribe to. And you guys out there, come on a ride. Come on a ride. What have you got to lose? Honestly. More importantly, what have you got to gain? Hell of a lot. A cool life.
absolutely.
Trisha, thank you so much for coming onto my show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And you guys out there, look after yourself. I believe in you. Stay strong. But listen to my words. Look after yourself. Bye.